One, two, three. All right. Welcome to the first episode ever of Shaping Society. I'm your host, PZP. This is my guest, my first ever guest, Gotti Morano.
What's up?
How are you doing today, Gotti?
Doing good, feeling good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So why don't you tell us what brings you in today on Shaping Society? Here we kind of talk about business, we talk about entertainment, and we talk about how all that shapes the society we're in today. What part of entertainment do you yourself partake in?
More on the sonical side, you know. I'm a rapper.
You're a rapper, all right. So you got some recordings going on. What are you working on right now? You have anything debuting?
Yeah, so I have an EP debuting, and I just had a song drop on Valentine's Day. It's doing really good. It's About You by Baby Goth.
Oh, with Baby Goth.
Yeah.
The singer?
Yeah, Baby Goth. She's from Dallas, but she lives in LA. She's basically got her buzz going like a year or two ago.
That's what's up. So how did you guys meet her?
Oh, my manager set it up. He set it up. You set it up.
What's up?
Yeah, through Foo.
Who?
Shout out Foo.
Shout out the whole squad, Tube Tank Entertainment. They're also the producers of this podcast.
TTE.
My business partner Frosty, TTE all the way. So tell us a little bit about your experience, how long you've been in the music business, how long have you been a professional recording artist?
Since I was really 2019, so not 2019, but around the age of 20 to 19.
Oh, okay, I was about to say, well that's just a few months ago, man.
No. 20 to 19 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 7 years, 7 years.
About 6 or 7 years. So what have you learned from all of that? Has the industry changed within that time, that 6, 7 years? What could you tell the listeners from your experience as a independent artist signed to an independent label?
Well, the music industry constantly is changing, but the one thing that I am noticing is that it's changing faster and faster. The more, the more that we head into the future, the more I mean hip hop, are just experimenting with different things. Like for example, in the 90s, you couldn't really go out there and do the crazy shit that you can do now. I feel like Kanye was the one who broke that barrier of not so much macho, but that was just the start of it. People have been experimenting with it, and it's just getting more and more experimental, I feel like.
Okay. Would you think that hip-hop is entering its psychedelic phase of if you were to compare it to rock and roll back in the from the 50s to all the way up into early 2000s? It went through many different genre phases, from Buddy Holly to Pink Floyd, drastic difference, but it's all recognized within the same genre or subgenres of each other. How do you feel about that? What do you think hip-hop's subgenres will break into? Because I feel like the rap and hip-hop industry hasn't hasn't explored all the subgenres that they can truly explore yet.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So I feel like the psychedelic thing is definitely being brought right now. It was really introduced. I feel like in
Kid Cudi. Would you say Kid Cudi introduced this new chill wave or?
Kid Cudi was a pioneer, but he wasn't definitely he didn't flat out say drop acid.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was more of in 2013, 2012 Flatbush Zombies. And then
nice.
Mac Miller was also had a lot to do with that, because if you listen to Mac Miller, Mac Miller started experimenting with acid right around the time that Psychedelic came out. And you could tell because before then Mac was really poppy. Mac was like kind of like, on some like kids type of vibe, like the album Kids. And then like after Macadelic, he started messing with like psychedelics and all these other drugs, and then like it just started getting like, it went from like a real MC, like poppy artist to like almost like inspired by the Roots. So like it was like two completely different things. And that was one of the guys who started it. Like it is definitely getting into its psychedelic phase, but more than anything, like it's also like fashion is a big thing in hip hop.
It always has been.
And like the fashion is getting crazier and crazier, and I feel like with the way that the fashion is going, people like, I feel like there might be like an industrial wave of hip hop, but I don't know how that's gonna play out because like it's kind of contradicting, but like we'll see. Like,
interesting. Now, why do you say that the industrial play with hip hop is kind of contradicting?
Because like people who have tried to do it, it didn't come out as well. Like for example, in my opinion, something that is like as close as industrial could get to hip hop was like Yeezus by Kanye. Like it has like a lot of like industrial songs, like Black Skinhead, that song, and then like just listening to the album, that is the kind of like the only way that I see it happening. So like it would definitely have to be something that would be made like very detailed because it's like two completely different sounds.
Interesting. So, as an independent artist, someone that doesn't really have to respond to any like major label, I know Toontank doesn't limit you on your releases. Going forward, what would you tell any young artist that necessarily doesn't want to conform to what's being produced and out there, but what would you tell them if they feel like they need to conform to this type of image that they see like major labels signing? What would you tell these young kids?
Well, I would just like put your own twist on shit. So like for example, like if you see like don't necessarily follow the wave, like be influenced by it, but like make it your own,
Absolutely. Take a little bit of inspiration from the wave, but paint with your own colors.
Exactly.
Paint with your own brush, for sure.
Like
absolutely.
Buy the same canvas from the same place, buy the same type of colors, but make your own picture type shit.
But paint your own picture. I get that. That's not too bad, man. And you got any other business advice you got going forward that you might want to let people know in the music industry? What's been the benefit staying independent for you? You want to maybe inform them about the differences between.
Well, I feel
you've had I know you've had meetings with both like Atlantic, Universal Republic, in New York. So like, what have you noticed are the pros and cons?
Well, so let's take Megan Thee Stallion for example.
Okay, great. She's kind of a hot topic right now. Not too happy with her contract.
Yeah, she's not happy with her contract, but like in a major, like okay, she signed to an indie label who basically the only reason why she didn't like her contract is because she wasn't getting paid out the right amount. That's fair, whatever.
That is a fair argument.
But like in all honesty, like staying with like an independent label and like making it with that independent label is probably like 20 million times better than making it with a major, because with a major you have to think about it like this. With a major, they have a shelf life on you. So they're like, okay, so we're gonna sign him, and he'll be hot for like the next 6 to 2 years, or 6 to 2 months. Like maybe if it's good for you, they'll be like maybe like 4 years. But like they'll plan like, oh, let's try him out for like 6 months. So they'll give you like a light push, and like maybe like if like I don't know, that light push wasn't exactly what it was, and then after that you had your little run, and then you're like done. Like that's it. Like and then. There's just so many business complications with it because a lot of people are like illiterate to like how this business works, and so they get the money. They're like, oh my god, free money. I'm an artist, and that's not how it is.
No, yeah, I think going deeper into that, I think when you say free money, you're really talking about the advance. I don't think people really realize, especially these young artists, realize that there is no such thing as free money in this world, and that at the end of the day, we can take the fans away, take everything away, and you break it down. This is a business, and you are in the business of selling music. You can paint it any way you want to try to make yourself feel holier than thou, but at the end of the day, you're selling art. You're an art salesman. And your label is your bank. And no bank is going to finance an artist that can't sell art.
110%.
And I think that's what really people need to understand. Especially, they say in other businesses, when you take your profit within the first year, don't immediately pay yourself out. They try to tell you to put that profit back into the business so you can scale. The most successful artists we've seen, for example, people love Billie Eilish right now. That's a young artist that just emerged out of nowhere, and it's because her team took the money from the royalties, the advance, and they put it back into the project itself.
Right.
And I wish young artists would realize that, when you get, and I'm going to tell you right now, advances range. They can range anywhere from $10,000 to $1 million. It's all about what you bring to the table and how much the label, whether it's major or independent, wants you. That's all it comes down to. And it's just a business deal. You cannot go in there expecting any favors or handouts. I don't care who you are. Unless the entire world is screaming your name, they don't care about they only care about the numbers.
They really do.
So if you're coming in looking for a deal, guess what? They're going to want to know all your social media platforms collectively, how many followers you have, how many impressions you have. They want to know how many how many streams you have on every streamable platform, and over the course of how long it took you to get those streams, because guess what? That matters to them too. If you get 1 million streams and it takes you 2 years to get it, that does not excite the major labels. That shows potential and that shows great growth. However, they're looking for the 1 million streams in a week, 2 weeks.
Yep.
Because that's where they see the return on their investment. Because at the end of the day, like I said, this business is selling music, selling art, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel like music today is shaping society?
Man, it is society. That is the 110% what shapes society is the music culture. I mean, even throughout history, music and fashion
has brought culture, races, people of all wakes completely together that you have never seen together.
It's 70% of society is music and fashion.
Absolutely, I could see that. Not sure if that number is 100% accurate, but
It is, because society, okay, it's really more 100%. You're not gonna walk in a courtroom dressed like you just got out of bed. And I don't care what you say, you have to put on clothes that has to do with fashion. It has to be in a certain type of fashion that you wear. So if
when you step into a courtroom, absolutely, the judge has a expectation of what you should look like.
Exactly.
When you come in.
Exactly, and that boils down to fashion. So
dapper and kempt is what they like.
Exactly. And even if you go out to a certain place, you're gonna dress a certain type of way. And you're gonna dress a certain type of way because it's influenced by the music you listen to.
That's very valid. I completely agree. I think fashion will always be a thing. It always has been a thing since day one, really.
Bro, Egyptians, they were huge into that. And it wasn't even really fashion back then. It was just I guess,
nice silk.
Showing of wealth. But it has everything to do with society, is fashion and music, 110%.
Now, There's a lot of controversy between the major designers, right? We can all, the Gucci, the Louis, the major brands that everyone pretty much recognizes on the designer realm of things. And there's always been a little bit of controversy between the hip hop community and the designer community. Even though I personally believe that designer would have gone bankrupt if it was not for hip hop. I personally, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, it would have.
If you watch the sales, if it wasn't for these young hip hop artists, and rock stars were not wearing designer. They had a lot of influence over the youth, and they were wearing ripped jeans, and the crazy thing is, now you have designers mimicking ripped jeans, right? And I feel like it wasn't until hip hop that came around that honestly saved that whole industry of fashion. And it reintroduced an entire new line of fashion to an entire new youth.
Well, that's where people like Virgil Abloh, that's why they're so important. Because what was crazy is, you're right, it would have gone bankrupt, but what was crazy is before it actually, because now it recognizes it, but before it recognized it.
That's right. What about before?
Before it recognized it, it definitely shunned the culture. It definitely wasn't too accepting of it. But people kept,
kept buying it.
Kept buying it. And now, like I said with Virgil Abloh, the reason why he's so important is now they used to shun it. Now that for the first time ever, Louis Vuitton has a black head designer.
And that's very amazing. And that's what we're talking about. How are these things shaping society for better, for worse? We're here to discuss that. I think of Virgil Abloh as an ambassador, the bridge between the street and corporate fashion.
That's what it is.
And that is, if they did not have him, or individuals like him, I do foresee the fashion industry would have fallen off, and you would have things like Supreme and Bape growing as fast as they did, is because the youth projectiled it to where it could go.
For example, one of the biggest examples of racism, because it was kind of racist, was when Kanye was trying to get into the fashion industry. He spent $10 million and he didn't get anywhere. For the sole reason that the fashion industry people, all of the people who own Louis, Gucci, Dolce, Fendi, whatever.
They own all the factories.
They own all the factories.
They were smart, they monopolized, they bought up all the factories, and now if you want to get anything produced on a mass scale, you're going to have to go through them. And guess what? Like any gang, they tax you. So, makes sense. And that's where we're at. How has hip-hop changed and shaped society? Well, we've watched it grow from the 90s only being recognized within certain communities to now one of the most consumed products in the music industry around the world. It is probably by far one of the, if not right now, the most influential genre that is influencing not only the youth, but shaping society through, you said, fashion and music.
Oh man, speaking of this, before we go, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, you ended it for us.
A good point. Oh my god. Okay, so who was the one saying? Francis, maybe you can help me out. Who was the one saying that? It was Jim Jones. Jim Jones was recently saying that being a rapper is dangerous, that hip hop is dangerous, this, that, and the other. And That is dangerous talk because above all this dumb street shit or whatever, the record execs are listening. And they're like, oh, it's dangerous. It's a fucking liability.
Exactly.
And then okay.
Y'all are hindering it. You OGs are hindering more than you are helping.
Bro.
And you know it too. You're jealous of the youth.
Like, no, but what fucked
You
up.
need to be educating the youth. You need to be talking positive. You need to re-educate that you do not need to be doing the same shit we were doing in the 90s and early 2000s. Because my man's Gotti is right. The white corporate execs that are in charge of these labels, they consume all of this. So if you're telling them it's a dangerous investment, guess what?
And then right after he said that, Waka Flocka is like, man, you need to chill out with that. It's not dangerous.
It's not.
And then
you just need to be smart.
And then Lil Baby gets a fucking shootout at his concert.
I mean, it's truly unfortunate. You gotta be smart. All I gotta say to that, to the hip hop community, to this genre, don't let these people bullshit you. The rock stars that they signed back in the 90s were doing absolutely way 100% more. I promise you, you cannot top them, nor do I want you to top what they were doing. Okay. Perfect example. Dimebag Darrell.
Yeah.
That scenario that you just said about Lil Baby could have been an exact Dimebag Darrell scenario. So, John Lennon.
Oof.
Okay? There will always be fanatic fans. There will always be fanatic people. You cannot let fear win. You cannot let terrorism win. And with that, I say, do not let them try to spin this rhetoric that hip hop is a dangerous genre. Because it's not. It's as dangerous as you make it.
And I mean, honestly, if you really think about it, hip hop has brought more wealth to the black community than anything I think besides sports.
But absolutely, I can see that between the music industry, fashion, and entertainment. Absolutely, other than sports, it's really helped the lower income communities out. Absolutely, and with that note, that lets us know that here we are talking about things that shape society. You let us know how you think that hip hop has shaped society. Has it been for good? Has it been for worse? Do you think it's a dangerous genre? Do you think that, like me, it's no worse than the rock and roll genre was back in its prime? Let us know. Follow, subscribe, comment, share, like, all that jazz. For now, this is BZP, and we're out.